We broke it.
And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. SharkNation number 49. We're going to go through everything works. It all works. Jason, how's it feeling today, my man?
Yeah, work works, right? Doing awesome, man. You know what? Had a good weekend. Went to Philadelphia, visit my son. Hung out with some of my closest buddies. We, got after it. Went to the Temple game, all that kind of fun stuff. Or tried to go. Long story short, it was an adventure for sure. But yeah, man. So just getting refreshed up from a weekend away, and getting ready to get back after it today.
I like it. So I had a scenario yesterday that really, I think, led to the topic of the show here. So I'm going to kind of go into that, and I think it's going to lead us down the path we need to go to bring value to everybody on this podcast, agents, the real estate agents listening here. So I set the premise, I think that we've all been in a spot, like let's say you're posting content, you're doing YouTube videos or making the calls or learning in classes or, like just anything. And really in all aspects, and I'll get into that later, but I want to bring it to this scenario. So a lot of those things I was doing, scripting, role play, follow-up boss, getting that systemized and ready to rock. So I had an open house yesterday. I've already mentioned a lot of it. What's that?
I saw your post. You had 2.
Oh, true. We did have 2, but I was at 1. So I had a buyer that came in, went really well. So holding the open house worked. Buyer came. My open house strategy from years ago that I had perfected over years of doing open houses worked. And got the lead information, basically their name, phone number, and email, or the client or whatever, the human being.
You want to break that down for people?
Maybe sure. I have a good short on our YouTube channel on my stuff. So I just posted it if you want to see it. But long story short, give people a reason to sign in. What I do is say, hey, the owners want to have record of how many people came in today. So if you can, just put your name down there. And if you put your phone number and email, I'm going to send you the seller disclosures as well. Yes, we'll send anybody the disclosures, but that just the presentation of having, if you put your info in, I'll send you this. Yeah. When I did that, I know I tracked it back in the day when I did it. It went from a 50% lead capture rate to a 75%. Because it's just the law of reciprocity. You know what I mean? Give it something.
Yep.
Super simple, but just that structure for me really, really helped. And so again, go check that out. I made a little short everywhere for that. But so
quick, okay, I'll touch on mine then before you get started, because we have the same thing. Seller requests, everybody sign in. That's going to be on site or whatever, right? So now we're doing it on a buddy system. One gatekeeper and one tour guide, right? So the gatekeeper is to capture the information, provide the value. Hey, let me send you the MLS printouts. We're not doing paper copies anymore. Let me send you all the info on the house and the seller disclosure, and then, kind of say, okay, did you get it? Right? Here, I'm going to text it to you, right? Did you get it? Right? Capture more of that info. And then the other person's there to be the tour guide and kind of show them around.
All right. Well, you one up me. Sorry.
I didn't want to, no, partner.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. Really good. Really good. Okay. So leads there. We have a good conversation. A lot of the questions that I asked were from some role play sessions I had been in and listened to others. So you're like, oh, am I learning anything sitting in these sessions? Am I ever going to use it? Yep, I did. Yeah. And then they were debating 2 communities here. Coincidentally, 4 months ago, I made a opinion video on just the 4 qualities I'm going to judge these 2 communities on, and what my favorite was, and whatever. It's the exact 2 communities they were debating, Bexley and Starkey Ranch. So I said, hey, I actually made a YouTube video about this about 4 months ago. Would you mind if I emailed that over to you? You put your information in there, right? Like it was the right information, right? They did. So their YouTube came into play.
Double check to make sure that that number was right. Yeah, sometimes I give out my old one.
That's it. Well, they do. Sometimes people put fake info in, and that's where you could catch them as well. You put the right info in, right? Mm-hmm. So here we've got, role playing, applying, open house, time doing open houses. We've got YouTube, right? Well, then Follow-Up Boss comes into play because I sent the video and the link to our listing and seller disclosures all through Follow-Up Boss, which tracks the email, tracks the open, tracks the click. Yeah. Has a follow-up procedure, which reminded me today to follow back up and have and I actually had a personal conversation from there because they know the where we're going to go get our daughter's softball lessons. They know the people that do the lessons there. So because I followed up the day after, because the system reminded me to, all these things coming into play. So, it just really made me think about how work works. I mean, just do you don't think that YouTube video 4 months ago mattered, but all of a sudden you need it. And I've had so many instances where that was the case, but going through that literally yesterday reminded me. And then, funny enough, we also had an agent that's going to join our team here in the next week. This is not that YouTube is great. It's an awesome solution, but it's not the only theme. It's just the theme of today. But, he had actually went through and watched a lot of my past YouTube videos about providing value, and it was able to, deepen that connection on who I am and what I do and what I'm about, based on past work that I did, So just when you think like that this podcast, you're at 49 weeks, is it going to work, right? Just when you don't think it's going to work, all of a sudden, all that stuff starts stacking up, and it all ties together.
For sure. Yeah, I had a similar couple experiences like that recently too, where it's like, I did some videos, some training on, people working with investors, and some of the newer agents that joined the team are like, oh, I need some help on that. I'm like, I did a video on that. Here, check this out. If you have any questions, and they're like, oh yeah, that was perfect. That's exactly what I want. I'm like, sweet, So yeah. But like you said, at the time when you're doing it, you're like, did anybody even watch this? It might not have that many views or whatever. It's like, it's what am I doing? Especially some of the stuff we have is unlisted, so kind of keep it private between, what we showed the team and all that kind of stuff. But you forget how many videos that you actually did. I think I had like a couple hundred videos on different topics, just unlisted, explaining various things. I'm like, let me see what I have. Go back into the vault.
Right. Well, and then there's the other side of it that I want to say, that it always works, even whenever you don't see it actually drive a result, because, it's practice to make you better. There's so many lessons I've learned from failing in conversations and what not to say, just in general, but then on top of it, I talked a lot about our mistake with the digital marketing agency, about how we learned what not to do. But in that learning what not to do or focus on, I strengthened my knowledge in digital marketing. I strengthened my knowledge in email marketing. I social media ads. Just learned almost actually I could perfectly relate this, because now we're hiring out a lot of our digital marketing on our team. And I was doing it all manually because I understood it, but then I understood how much work it actually takes. And it's a lot like we lived flipped in about 3 of our first homes. Like, we buy a home, fix it up, live in it for 2 years in one day, avoid capital gains, and sell it. I no longer have any interest in doing that. Maybe on the investment side, but personally, no. Yeah. I also don't have much of an interest in fixing things myself. Not that I won't, just like taking on the big projects I did. But here's the cool part. Now I know exactly what it entails and exactly how to do it for 2 reasons. If I get in a bind and I need to do it myself, or if somebody's overcharging me, I know exactly what that takes. I'm willing to pay the price whenever it does take a lot, Yeah. But that knowledge, just like, the social media ads or Google pay-per-click and things like that, once you unravel it yourself, you know now what it's worth. You don't feel bad paying the thing because you know you don't want to do the X amount of hours and figuring all that stuff out.
Yeah. I think a good exercise for people to do on any task would be, what's your hourly rate, right? Anything underneath your hourly rate, you should outsource that to somebody else. So, because for one, your time's more valuable. Not that other people are doing it; it's less valuable or whatever. But you could be doing more dollar productive activities for that, like cutting your grass. I don't know if what do you have, like fake grass in Tampa or what? You probably don't do that.
Nah, not much, but it's awesome. Yeah, we have one guy that kind of owns our whole community here. It's super cheap.
Yeah, right. But like I said, what you could be doing instead of mowing your grass, there's dollar productive activities. So how do you calculate that? Figure out what you made last year, right? Divide it by a certain number of hours in the week, in the month, all that kind of stuff, and break it down to your hourly net worth, right? And then any task below that, outsource. Anything over that, you should be tackling. And like you said,
I'm gonna devil's advocate you on that though, because like, yes, what you're saying, I totally agree with, and I do, but like, I think there's two sides. I think there's two sides to everything. I think there's duality. Like, yeah, that's right, but you can get stuck in that space and automate yourself out of relationships, right? As we said in the past, or heard in the past, but like, it's sometimes you need to do the lower things to know what they entail, what the work, what's going on in the trenches, so that you're not detached from it. Like, yeah, cutting the grass, doing the laundry, things like that. I could see, there's certain things there that it's like, that you might not control the outcome in. That's another factor. Do you control the outcome in any of it?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying outsource everything 100%. Like you said, think about the task at hand. It shouldn't be anything like outsourcing, like business related stuff is different than outsourcing, like, things that you could do to, buy some more free time to do the things that you want or work on the things that you love. That's that part.
Are you in a position where that's the conversation you should be having, or should you just be doing the freaking work first before you have that car? That's the other thing. You know what I mean? Some, myself included, have automated, or not automated, have leveraged too early.
Yeah. Well, I would say if you're gonna think about that conversation, it's like, one, do you like it? Two, are you good at it? Or somebody else better at it than you could be, and that you don't, it might not be a skill that you need to know. For me, I'll give you an example. Like social media graphics and stuff. Is it valuable for me to know that? Sure. Do I like doing that design and stuff? No, I'm not that great at it, right? So I can outsource that activity to somebody that's better at it, that likes to do it, will do a better job quicker than I would, and give me a better bang for the buck on my dollar producing activity if I had to do that myself.
Yeah.
Or like you said, like you do a lot of YouTube stuff, video editing, right? That's a time consuming task or whatever, might not be the greatest task for everybody. Think about it. Is this something that I enjoy doing? If it's yes, then do it. It doesn't matter about the dollar thing, right? But if it's no, somebody could do it better, quicker, faster, stronger, all that kind of stuff, then outsource it.
Right. And I think my point, and then it comes to the point of the show, is like everything you're saying, like these sides are both right. Everything you said is right. And then on the other side of it, especially if you like it, like I liked editing. I like video editing. I like doing it. So I started doing that a lot. And then I noticed, I'm like, yeah, I cannot do the content and focus on the value I've got to deliver there and set the time aside for my regular activities and edit. I can't do both. I tried it. It didn't work. Yeah. And I knew that it was too hard, but some of the skills that I picked up from that taught me the value of it. So I knew what to pay. And then, when I'm in a bind, I'm able to edit something real quick.
Yeah. And how long it's going to take and all that kind of stuff. So if you are trying to outsource that job and you know that it should take 3 hours to do, and they're saying it's going to be like 10 hours worth of work, you're like, well, why? Yes. Right. So you have a good reference point on that. But like I said, at some point you can't do everything, right?
100%. Yeah. It's just, Yeah, you can't. This is right here. This is actually really good to display in like raw form because like it's showing the duality of it because both of the conversations exist that it's a constant balancing act of like, you
Yeah.
know, don't go too far in leveraging things out and not be in the trenches enough, but don't go too far in the trenches and not have leverage and scale enough. Like it's this constant balancing act that I don't think anybody gets perfect 100%.
But
I think
one thing that, like, for an example, for what I'm doing, something that I don't like to do that I need to get better at, and I'm going to do it and moving forward because I know it's important for me and my business, right? Is database management, right? So I'm going to be in the weeds with it. And do I really love it? Is it kind of out of my comfort zone? Sure. I'm not the best at it, right? So I'm getting a teacher. I'm going to have somebody come in, train me every week and then help train the team on it so we could, maximize the ROI on that. But do I want to do it? No, I'm like, man, I hate it, but I want to know it and I want to know every little detail about it. So I'm insourcing myself to outsourcing myself in, I guess. You know what I mean?
No, this is really good because it made me think of something here too. Because like obviously my theme here that I want to go with is like, work works, do the work, everything works. It stacks on itself. The work works harder on you than you do on it. And I'll come back to that in a second. But at the same time, leverage matters, scale matters, your efficient use of time matters 100%. You only have so much of it. So choice management applies. But I think I've always said the middle way is kind of the way. You can be too nice, but you can also be too mean, right? You can be, because you can be a big pushover, but you can also be too aggressive. It's, you can see that directly. Everybody can see that. You can be too giving, but you can be too selfish. Like, like everything in life, you can work out too much and work out not enough, like it's so eat too much, eat not enough. Anyway, so the middle tends to be the way, very probably Buddhist philosophy, but I've always found that to be true. And I think when you come and you look at this, it's like, if you're somebody that just works, you need to look eventually once you get tapped out on, all right, leverage and scale. Like, are you having efficient use of time? But if you're somebody that's always looking for the automated, the easy way, the leverage, you need to be pulled back into, you know what? You need to work too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about your story a little bit where you kind of out leveraged yourself from the day to day, right? So you've seen both sides of that and the value of getting into the weeds every single day and just how much it moved your business in the short amount of time that you did it. I mean, a lot of people think that it's like, okay, I have this system and process. All they have to do is follow it and, I'll see you later. I'm going golfing, right? It just doesn't work like that. So like you said, the balancing act between, work hard, play hard. That's what I say. There's a time and place for everything. And you could go golfing here and there, you know what I mean? But you shouldn't be out every single day when everybody else is that you're relying on and you're outsourcing yourself away from your business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, I think for me, what really just aiming upward every day. We've talked about it a lot, but I think just having that mentality, it makes me come in every day and just want to be better, as opposed to when I came in every day, I wanted to get out. It was like,
it's more you found your why and your purpose and passion now, and it's like, or was it like you were just kind of avoiding of the hard work?
Well, I think a lot of it's probably a little of both, man. Like I think a lot of the culture and just want is to have like sit on it, like the sit on a beach and make money is such a thing. There's such a, like, everybody wants that. But I can tell you, not that I had it all by no means, but I definitely had a very autopilot based business. Like it was pretty much on autopilot for me. Now, the first step in pain is coasting. You just haven't felt the pain yet. I coasted and then the pain came 100%, and that's all that good stuff. But back when it was there for a solid 2 years that it ran really, really good before the pain started, there's still problems and frustrations with sitting on the beach. The sand is annoying. It's too hot. You're sweating too much. The kids are going in the zone they shouldn't. They're not listening. You're hungry and you didn't set up food right. And like, it's the same. People are assholes on the beach as much as they are on the phone. Like, and then you start to realize it's like, wow, I'm dealing with the same frustrations I'd be dealing with, if I'm working and I'm not growing. And I think, like, I remember saying a lot 4 or 5 years ago that I'm addicted to growth. And I think that's what was lost, was even though I said I was addicted to growth, I had the growth, but I stopped getting the growth because I stopped doing the things that led to it. So it all comes back to, I think that if you're not aiming upward, if you're not growing as a human being, whether it's from level 1 to 2 or level 100 to 5,000, doesn't matter. If you're not growing, you get complacent and bored and you really lose that fulfillment.
Yeah, even 1.0 to 1.1, right? Just some kind of marginal increase in, figuring it out, it goes a long way. But, a lot of times, like you said, we don't see the results of between where you were at 1 and where you are at 2, right? You don't stop back and take a look and smell the roses and be like, look how far I've come, I was doing some like soul searching and stuff like that, going on a walk, and I was just thinking about it, like, just within the last year, how many systems, processes, all this kind of stuff, value propositions that I put in the team where it's like, how did I even like function before all this stuff? You know what I mean? And it's like, now I'm like, man, the path is so super clear. It's like, but taking that time to see, okay, well, where were you a year ago from today? Right?
Yeah.
And then where you are right now, it's like, holy shit. Right? Or if you're like, oh, I'm in a worse spot than I was, then, hey, look, you still got Q4 to get after it. But he said,
and that's personally too. It's not even just professionally, you know what I mean? And but all of it, I mean, I've been on both sides. I've been where it's been like, wow, I can't believe where I've come in 1 or 5 years. And then I've been on the side I was like, wow, what the hell happened the last 1 or 4 years? It's like, you definitely want to be on the upward trend, but that involves your daily thoughts, and the work works harder on you than you do it. Like, even past jobs that never panned out that you thought were a total waste of, or here it is, you want the actual, I was in a band. Me and Brittany had a band with an agent of ours for a bit and a best buddy of mine, James. We had a band for years and we made negative dollars. We spent I focused more on that band than I don't know about that I do on real estate, but same level of passion that I have with real estate. And anybody that was around me during that time knows that. And there was resentment for a bit with me. It's like, wow, I wasted 3 years of, my younger years where I could have been in college or building real estate or, whatever. But there were real life lessons and business lessons from managing and running the band that I carried into this, like how to get people to, how hard it is to get people to come to a show of a band locally, like, 'cause it's hard to be a prophet in your own hometown. Like, you know how hard that is when then it's like, they don't even like your genre of music. Like, they might be your friend, but they might like country and we're rock. It's like, shit.
You learn people skills, you learn marketing and advertising, you learn time management skills, you learn organizational skills, right? So everything that we do, sometimes we just chalk it up as a total failure when it's not. It's only a failure if you didn't realize or learn anything from that experience, right? But look at all the skills that you have from something like that, right? So I had a similar experience, like an internship, and I tell this a lot of times too, for like newer agents on the team, you got to have that learning curve, right? At first, you have to be bad at something long enough to get good at it, right? So you're going to be in that messy middle. So many times that, if you want to take it back to agents making calls, right? If you have one unsuccessful day, you can stop after that day and chalk it up and say, oh, this doesn't work, right? But doing it consistently over time, right? It's like, okay, well, I've heard that objection a couple times. What do I need to say next time? Okay, now that's starting to get some traction, right? Now it's starting to get a little bit more success. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get.
Really, yeah. And I just had a conversation with that on a coaching call with an agent last week. It's like they hear all the stuff, the numbers and the math and the logic and the blah, blah, blah. But, when they do it for one day and call 10 people, get no answers or get told F off, they're like, well, this doesn't work. You're wrong. This doesn't work.
Yeah.
And well, here's the deal. So today I made almost 100 dials out and had about 7 real conversations with people. And I set one appointment to meet with somebody who's gonna take action here in the next week or two. Okay, right. Awesome day, awesome numbers. That's one day. Here's the thing. Tomorrow I could do the very same thing and get 3 conversations, which isn't likely, but no appointments, or just no appointments, or nobody valid.
Yeah.
So let's flip it, right? Let's go 4 days this week and have no results, but then the last day I do what I did today, and that's one buyer lead and a bunch of potential future nurtures that you made out of 1 week, as opposed to, well, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And here's the reality of that too, because they say, okay, it did work, but the payoff's not for a while, right? Because that person that you're taking out, you're just getting to know. And now you have to find them what they want. And then how long is it going to take them to find what they want? And then once they find it and you offer on it, now you're 30 days out from that, or 45 to 60 days out with the loan. And so it's a long game in our business, and sometimes when you don't have that instant gratification, it's like, well, what mile markers could I look back on to even show you that you're moving the needle, right? Because you don't get paid for so long.
Right. And but it's then that's where I really come to the shark thing. We fell into that mentality, it was just an idea in the beginning, like anything should be. We just implemented and didn't even run it. And now I've really embedded that into my blood, obviously running this brand or whatever it is for 4 years, because it's being on the offense. Like a shark is on the offense, they're attacking, right? What it means is I can control that. I can't control who reaches out to me randomly that I know. I can't control that. I love it. I'm very, very thankful for that. And I'm, of course, you post content so you're more aware, but I can't control that. And I got a family here that we've got to live, So what are you going to do that, listening to this podcast, if you're listening, what do you do daily, weekly, monthly, yearly that you control 100% of the input output equation that you can do more of to get more of the result? That's what you have to find. Of course, we all like the cherries on top, but you got to build the foundation.
Yeah. If it feels uncomfortable, you feel awkward or whatever, you're probably body telling you that you're going in the right direction, right? So like I said, figuring out what don't I like to do, right? And kind of tie back in, right? But you can't not do the activity that's going to move the needle for you. People can't do your push-ups for you, right? With our business, it's making the calls, right? That's something that you're never going to get away from in this business. We have to do it. You can't outsource that. So
hey, go do YouTube. You're going to get inbound calls.
Yeah.
Or leads. And then you got to call them. But the other thing I want to bring up, easy versus hard. I brought this up in our team huddle today. The easy thing to do is look at something new. Okay, I haven't mastered my phone skills or my open house skills or my whatever skills, right? Or my video skills, or you name it skills. All right, so I go do this new thing. Or as a leader, it's really, really tempting. You know what? My agents are kind of deflated on making the calls and getting better at the calls. So I'm going to bring out this new thing to keep them. See, that's easy to do, actually. What's hard to do is master the subtleties and bring up the uncomfortable stuff and get better, even when you don't want to practice, when you don't want to hear it. That's hard. And in my experience of life, the hard stuff is what gets you where you need to go.
Yeah. Everything that's hard is good, right? And I mean, really, really good. So many times we have that shiny object syndrome, and it kind of just diverts the inevitable of getting back to the actual work, right? You know what you need to do to move the needle, but it's like, well, this might be easier, or, this might be cheaper, this might be a shortcut. What do you find out after playing around with it for 30, 60, 90 days? It all goes back to what you should have been doing to begin with, right? But then you start doing that, it gets hard, so you look for something easier, right? The get rich quick scheme, or the diet pill, or the shot that I don't have to work out. I could just take this shot and all of a sudden I'm 100 pounds.
Oh, I've had a lot of interaction with that recently, and you've got to find a rhythm that produces the result you want. It sounds simple. It sounds simple, but we bring it up so much. We talk about it so much because that's what works, you know. And that's why on our team huddle today, you know, we brought up we had two really common objections coming up. It was mostly about personal matters. Like for an expired listing, it was, well, I decided to take it down because of a personal reason that I don't want to get into, was the exact verbiage. And then on the buyer side, it was like, you know, well, I stopped looking for personal reasons that I don't want to get into. It's like, you know, where do you go from there? Very valid hurdle for an agent to connect with somebody. So what we did was, like, we brought it up in like raw form, like team huddle, sports team. Like, what do we do to get over this hump, guys? And we all just threw ideas out. We tried things. I tried things. They were wrong, and we heard it, and we corrected, and we found some really good ways to connect with people in the long term without diving into their personal, you know, sensitive area.
What'd you come up with? What's good? What kind of nugget could you give us?
Well, yeah, it was a line of questioning, but I would summarize it as, like, what can we do to support you for whenever whenever that does come back, and what are you going to do in the meantime? Are you staying? Can I provide local updates, like area, even if it's food and beach recommendations, like kind of just a line of questioning of, well, what are you going to do in the meantime? How can I help support you for that and for where you want to go eventually? Is what we.
I like it. No, that's good. Like I said, you in your area with everything that just went on, you're going to have a lot of, you know, things like that coming up where it's like, you know, a little touchy, right? So, you know, just coming with value, or, you know, how could I help, or we're here when you need us, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, no, that's awesome.
And it's hard to address some of that stuff, but you know, and so people see it, like, as a leader, it's easier to come in, well, check out this new thing. Everybody's like, cool new thing. I don't have to think about the thing that's hard.
Yeah.
That's easier. It's harder to be boring and just work on the simple stuff. But I don't know. I feel like I'm learning more and more about how that's the way forward. So, well,
I think to wrap it up, I'll say this, right? So, you know, the shiny object thing, it's definitely, you know, a valid thing that definitely happens. You know, I'm going to be going to ConversionCon on Thursday and Friday this week, and then EXPCon and that's kind of one of the things that, you know, you got to evaluate when you go to some of these conferences. Like, can't implement everything immediately. What's one or two actionable things that I could take away from these next two conferences and implement in my business today, and not just leave them on a notepad, right? So, you know, kind of thinking, is this shiny object? Am I just trying to make it easy, or is it something actionable that I could implement? So, no, for sure.
Man, it's a tough one when you go to those places, and because it's hard to master one thing, and you're hearing excerpts of people who have mastered this thing and that thing and that thing and that thing, and you're like, well, I want to do all these things, and it's like, you don't know how much they spent developing that and working on the subtleties of, you know, time and money that you know, that's put in. You know, I think back to a lot of the conferences and the things I was going to implement, and I'm like, wow, like that would take a whole year just to perfect that, and I'm happy, you know, like.
And
so
like
100%.
Meeting, like, some of these people that are talking on these stages have been doing it for 10 to 20 plus years. You know, like, where are you at right now compared to where they're at? It's like, okay, you know, that comparison thing gets with people too. And then you feel bad about yourself that you're not, I don't have X amount of business or all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, that's not me. You know, where am I going to be in 20 years from now if I keep doing the same thing that I'm doing now? Probably on a similar track, right? So let's try to use the knowledge and skills and everything that's being taught at these things to shorten that learning curve.
And stay in the mirror, because that's your biggest competition.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. What's that?
I said, I'm a tyrant. I took 2 days off. Now I'm mad at myself. I got to get back after it.
I feel you on that one, Will. Thanks everybody though for jumping in here today. Go to sharknationlive.com. You know, subscribe to the podcast, like all the good stuff. We've got some interesting things coming up here, some good guests coming soon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you at the top.
Peace.